Hi there, my name's Rachel Pettit. I'm the program manager with the Farmer Veteran Coalition, managing our fellowship fund, and I'm here to talk to you about how to apply for the 2021 Fellowship Fund. First, you'll go to our website, farmvetco.org, and find the Fellowship Fund page, and you'll find a link to the application there. We have a few of the eligibility requirements listed on that cover page. One of the requirements is that you're an FVC member. You can join for free at farmvetco.org. You will be directed through ID.me to provide proof of service. Membership is free and all of our services are free. Once you've joined as a member, we would love to have you apply for the Fellowship Fund. You can see the link on the screen here. The 2021 application is open from now, January 1st, through February 14th. So the deadline is February 14th. There is a feature to begin the application and create a username and password so that you can resume progress at another time. So you can work on it little by little, as long as you have it completed by February 14th. So it's open to any FVC veteran member with an honorable discharge. If you have another discharge status, there will be a place that you can explain the details of that. And we ask that you're already operating an agricultural business. You can be in your first year or your 10th year, but that you have some skin in the game, that your business has been started. The Fellowship Fund awards range from $1,000 to $5,000, and they're designed to purchase small pieces of farm equipment that will launch your business to the next level. Sometimes we drill wells or we buy cattle, the first breeding pairs, mobile chicken tractors, laying irrigation, fruit trees, all kinds of equipment and supplies. So identify a piece of equipment that fits within that $1,000 to $5,000 range, and you'll describe it through the application. Another program that we have that the application is embedded within the Fellowship Fund is called the Geared to Give program. It's our partnership with Kubota Tractor Corporation. Kubota will be giving 5 pieces of equipment to Fellowship Fund recipients this year. And to apply for that, you will go through the Fellowship Fund application, and towards the end, you'll be asked if you would also like to apply for Geared to Give. You'll check yes if you'd like to continue, and then an additional 5 or 6 questions will appear on the screen, and they'll ask you questions about your tractor needs, horsepower, what tasks you'll be using the equipment for. After you answer those, then you will submit the application and you will have applied for both the Fellowship Fund and Geared to Give. If you don't want to apply for the Geared to Give section, you'll just click no and you'll finalize your fellowship application at that point. This year, the Fellowship Fund is open to all new applicants and those that have previously received a $1,000 Tractor Supply Company gift card, but we're not inviting previous Fellowship Fund awardees to reapply. However, if you've received a Fellowship Fund award in the past and you would just like to apply for Geared to Give, go ahead and complete the application, explain that you've already gotten the Fellowship Fund and that you'll only be applying for Geared to Give, and you'll answer those supplemental Geared to Give questions and submit your application. All right.
That's great, Rachel. Can you talk about some of the sponsors this year?
Yeah, we are so excited to welcome some new sponsors to the Fellowship program, and also to welcome back some returning sponsors. So this year we have Wounded Warrior Project coming in as a new sponsor. We're so excited to work with them. We also have Kubota Tractor Company, Tractor Supply Company, Tartar Livestock Equipment, Vital Farms, and Homestead Implements.
Yeah, and some of those are great because they're doing in-kind donations too, instead of just funding the Fellowship Fund. So hopefully some South Carolina recipients will get some of those in-kind donations as well. So that's great. A lot of opportunities for a lot of different things. So I know when you're going through, a lot of us are relatively new to farming. Some of us might be new to business. And the most scary part of this whole process is when you get to the place where you have to upload the business plan. And so we have an expert in the field. Jim Matson is here with us from Matson Consulting. And he and his folks specialize in agricultural grants. They write millions of dollars worth of agricultural grants every year, and he is an expert on business planning. So Jim, if you could just share with us some tips and tricks on how to write a successful business plan.
And I would say business plans are often intimidating for people when they're looking at it and thinking about it. And what I would say the key thing with a business plan is putting down those stories it's really putting down the story that you're telling people about your business ahead of time. And the key part on the business plan is that it's written, as opposed to a lot of other areas where a lot of times we feel comfortable talking about our business, but the business plan is really putting those ideas down at the beginning. And so for this one, like I said, this is sort of a shorter business plan than some. What you may want to look at is SBA.gov has a really good example of a more detailed business plan format that can help to look at sometimes. But really in a business plan, you're telling your story. And so as I was always taught, when you're starting with the format, you start with the executive summary. But the executive summary is tell them what you're going to tell them. So on the executive summary, you're hitting really short in like 2 paragraphs. Who you are, what you're doing, what your business is doing, what you're growing, and where you hope to grow to. And that's it. It's sort of the written equivalent of your elevator speech. Lots of people work on elevator speeches when you're doing the business plan, the executive summary of that. And then the business description is usually a couple of pages or so. Again, who are you? How did you get into? And I would focus more on your service and what's going to make you good on the farming side. I mean, it may be nice if you were a Sunday school teacher in 7th grade, but really on this one, you want to focus on the key ideas so people can hit on it. So who are you? Where's your business located? How can you deliver your crops? What's going to matter where you can buy stuff from, where that's happening. So that's on the description of the business, just those key details. What's your land like? You know, are you doing both animals and crops? Are you doing an agritourism project? Just on those key focuses of what it is so that somebody who is reading about it can get a mental picture as if they were doing just a quick farm tour within there. And the products and services is really, what are you going to sell? You know, what's coming out of it? Is it just that you're going to grow corn and sell it out as a commodity to the thing? Are you going to take that corn and ferment it and turn it into whiskey? You know, what are those areas that you're doing? What's the products you're doing? If you're going to be doing agritourism and bringing people to the farm, how that's going to work? You know, what type of classes you're going to offer? You know, are there any, you know, licenses or other things that requires along with that? And all these parts are mostly going to be words. You know, you've got a few numbers of the scale. Again, are you going to be selling one box or are you going to be selling by the truckload of things? So really working through it. And the marketing selling is how that's happening. You know, are you going to, again, are you going down to sell your grain down at the, you know, the farmer's co-op? Are you going to be going to a farmer's market in the summertime and then doing other things in the winter? Your marketing saying what those plans are, and also how are you supporting that? And that's an area, particularly on the marketing side, a lot of people, you know, forget to talk about where are they putting their dollars in. You know, do you have a sign by the side of your road for your business? Do you, you know, are you listed in a magazine? Are you a member of clubs locally? You know, if you're doing a CSA, it could be through some clubs or church or community groups that's helping you to focus on that. So where, you know, what's going to make sense? So it's not just about the dollars. And the one thing I would say with all of these sections, because it's a plan, remembering you're focused on the future. So you want to talk a little bit about where you are today, but you really want to be looking at the next year or 2 years, and, you know, and how long out in the future you want to talk about is going to depend on the crop you're talking about. I mean, obviously, if you're doing microgreens, you're going to be turning those over every few weeks. So a year is a nice time to talk about, you know, a cycle. If you're talking about grapevines or a winery, well, you're not going to get your first grapes out several years down the road. So you may even have to talk 6 or 7, you know, years in the future. So some of that is a little bit variable about where you're talking about with it. And the last part is usually the hardest part for people, which are their financials. And the financials, again, are saying, and I always think about financials as kind of, you know, the 4 or 5 key things of what you're doing. What are your total sales coming out of it? What does it cost you to get those sales on a straight basis? So, you know, what's going in for seed and tractors and labor and other things going back into it? How much effort are you putting in yourself for that product? But then also, what are your overhead things that are coming? You have a loan on your farm, you have a loan in in your business? Are you buying equipment? What are some of your overhead, electric, water that are going into it, and sort of showing all those up and showing how it's going to work. And then also it's always good to show a little bit about, how you're going to be able to cover your bills while that's coming in, For a shorter business plan, you may not need a formal, statement of, you want a statement of income of what's happening, or a cash flow statement with this, or, balance sheet, or some of the words that people throw around. And what a balance sheet really is what are you putting into your business and what you have there. So you could just do a real simple table that says, here's what we paid for the farm. We have a mortgage on it. Here's what our tractors or equipment we're using, and just, a small table kind of showing so the assets you have and the liabilities set up against them. So what do you have and what do you owe on that side? And then for the expenses, it's like I say, it's good to go through at least one cycle. Typically you want to, on your financials, have at least a year. So a year into the future of what things are going to look like. And you can kind of pick when that year started, because again, if you're doing, you may have a crop that's, focusing on the summertime is the typical time in, and you use a calendar year. But it may be something that has, if you're doing, winter production, if you're doing winter greens, you may want your year to start in July or August when you're doing your financials. So they don't have to agree with the calendar year. Just kind of line those numbers up for a year that makes the sense for you to tell the story. Remember, it's your story of your plan, so you can decide how it's told. So, and what I say is think about, you're trying to explain this to an aunt or a cousin who doesn't really know what you're doing. So you're trying to give them enough information so they kind of get, oh, I see, but you also don't need every single detail about, everything that happens throughout the year, because you only got 10 pages. So, like any good story, you kind of got to, and when I say write it down, the first time you write it, you're probably going to think it looks really ugly. And, and it probably will. And everything I write is horrendous the first time through. But you want to write it and give yourself enough time so you can go back in and edit it down. And like any good story, and everybody knows that the stories that you may tell over, a frothy beverage somewhere, over time, you kind of edit it down and find out where people laugh and where they go and what they enjoy. It's sort of the same thing with business plan. You want to write it and then come back, set it down for a little bit and look at it maybe the next day and see what it's writing. So I would encourage you to write it ahead of time and don't wait till February 13th to try to finish up the business plan. And, write it, give your a chance to go back in and edit it and see, are you really saying what you want to, and have somebody else take a look at it. Have somebody who doesn't know what you're saying, say if you're really telling, your best story with it. So hope that helps, and glad to answer any questions later.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jim. So now, we didn't really introduce ourselves at the beginning, but I am Kara Rutter and my husband, Matt Rutter. We own Project Victory Gardens here in Aiken, South Carolina. We applied for the fellowship fund last year, and last year there wasn't a separate button to click like there is this year for the Gear to Give program. So throughout our application, we also kind of focused on our need for a tractor. And then we were very excited to be recipients of the Kubota Gear to Give program, and a beautiful tractor for here at the farm. So there's a picture of the tractor. So the whole process can be a little intimidating. We applied for several grants over the last couple of years, and we didn't get them all. But we really learned a lot through each process. So just the process of applying for a grant, whether it's the fellowship fund or the South Carolina Department of Agriculture Agribusiness Center for Research and Entrepreneurship, the ACRE grant, VAPG grant, if you've got a little bit more skin in the game, that's certainly something to look at, and it's that season as well. So there's a lot of grant opportunities, and it doesn't hurt to apply. Most of these grant opportunities are free to apply, so apply for all of them, and you never know what you may get. So Matt is the president of the South Carolina chapter of the Farmer Veteran Coalition. So I'll let him kind of give a little background in what we applied for, and then we'll talk kind of about the mechanics of applying and how we got to where we got.
So yeah, hi, I'm Matt Rutter. So the year before last, or last year, I think, we applied for one of the grants here in South Carolina. It was a last minute. We wanted to be farmers. We were already working towards that. A grant became available, and we decided to apply for it. And for those of you that are new into farming, it's a great forcing function, because we had to write our business plan, and we had to take all the steps that you do to compete for a grant. We had to do them, within a month or so. So it really helped us kind of get our ducks in a row and figure out where we were actually going to be spending money over the next year. So even if you think that you're uncompetitive for a grant, it's still something that's going to help your farm in the future. It'll help you grow. Once we got that one turned in, then we got a call back to go and pitch for the grant. And so we had to go in front of people, and it was like the farmer version of Shark Tank in South Carolina. We had to pitch for this grant. And if you haven't spoken in front of people, and both of us are like retirees from the Army, speaking in front of people is something we do pretty regularly. It's still intimidating if you're not wearing an Army uniform to stand up in front of people and talk about your business. They kind of lay all the skeletons in the closet out, want to know where your money's going and a bunch of things. And it's just a great experience to be able to put into words what you're going to do with your business. So we learned from that too. Unfortunately, we didn't get it, but that didn't slow us down. We were now light years in front of where we should have been, because we now had a business plan and a roadmap of what we wanted to look like. And that's our starting point, and it's evolved since then. So your business plan, I think, is a living, growing document that you should revisit pretty regularly, especially as you take on new adventures into farming. This year we applied for the ACRE grant, which is a South Carolina grant, and the Farmer Veteran Coalition grant, and we were lucky enough to receive both of them. But when we went back into the Shark Tank in South Carolina this time, we were a little more prepared. So that said, as we were working through the process of applying for these grants, it's just, we reached out to people that had been there before, that knew what they were doing. Mr. Matson, Jim, looked over our stuff. That's what we wanted to put this class together for, is because we're here as the South Carolina Farmer Veteran Coalition President and Director of Communications to offer our help in anything, to shoot us an email or give us a phone call, and we can kind of walk you through some of the nuances that aren't really covered in this highlight. What else do I need to say?
I think that's good. No, absolutely. Just the process of applying is very beneficial. So take your time, apply. We are not applying for the fellowship fund this year. So I am happy to look over any of the applications or business plans if you want to send them my way. I was lucky enough to spend a couple months interning with Jim Matson and Matson Consulting. So we're happy to help in that way. I put up our contact information and Rachel's contact information, as well as the link to the fellowship fund again. So please take your time applying. It's not due till February 14th. You don't get extra points. Rachel can back me up on that. You don't get extra points for getting your application in early. So take the time, have people read over it, have people who have no idea what you're doing read over it. Because like Jim says, you have to tell your story. And that's what a business plan is. It's very important in the essay parts of the fellowship fund application. Really tell your story, tell your military story, tell your farm story, and kind of how those interconnect and what you want to do. For us, when we finally got the phone call that we received the Kubota tractor, it's a pretty big deal, and all of the leadership from the Fellowship Fund and Farmer Veteran Coalition is on the call, as well as all the Kubota leadership. And it's clear that they'd read our application, that they had looked through our application. I think the president of FVC actually quoted something back that we'd put in our application and said how much that meant to her that we'd put that in there. So really tell your story. You're selling yourself. So you may sell your product at the farmer's market, but overall what we're selling is ourselves. And that's really important in the Farmer Veteran Coalition. That's a key point. That's why we have the Homegrown by Heroes, is because it's part of telling our story. And so we want to make sure that the farmer veterans are getting everything that they need to help them be successful. But transitioning farmer veterans, post 9/11, Vietnam era, whatever age veteran you are, tell your story. We want to hear your story, and this is an awesome opportunity to just put your business a little bit further. So please feel free to comment below. We will reach out and get back to you with all the questions, answers, anything that you might be concerned about as you're filling out this application. And feel free to send us private messages, email messages. If you just want somebody to look over your application, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, Kara, I just want to reiterate one of the things in the 6 years of managing this program is how humble each one of you are, and how many times I hear, but what would I talk about? What would I put in how would I answer these questions about military experience and ag experience and my goals and dreams for the future? And really just reassuring that each one of you has such a compelling story, and it is just a matter of getting it onto paper, which can be difficult, but we're here to help. But really trust that you have a compelling story and you're investing in your farm, and FVC is investing in you. We want to help you become the most successful ag entrepreneur you can be, so that you can focus on your business. So any questions at all, definitely reach out to us through this contact information, but also don't forget that one of the strongest advantages, I guess, of being an FVC member is the network of 25,000 people in pretty similar situations to you all over the country. And we want to connect you with each other as well to help with the application, and also to help with any of your business questions, sourcing products or mentorship or finding land through each other and connections with each other. Even if you do get awarded, we often see people spend their award at other FVC member owned businesses. And that's pretty great to see the whole cycle of how veterans are working with each other. So reach out to us also if you just have a question about finding a mentor or someone in your area to connect with. We started a Facebook group for Farmer Veteran Coalition members. So if you're on Facebook, feel free to join that. And there's a lively discussion board. You can share photos or ask questions there. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rachel. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you much, folks. And good luck.
All right, thank you.